This special edition of Founders and Visionaries is brought to you by Gold Standard.
What we're actually seeing is flowering on a Khoa tree that's only about 27 months old. So it's very, very early in the history of a Khoa tree to start producing seeds.
This is where you're filming those.
Are you kidding?
No, these are the ones.
So Jeff and Daryl, I really have to thank you. It's hard to believe it's been 3 years since we've been together up here in the forest on the ranch. I am amazed at how much the trees have grown in the last 3 years. I saw pods on some of them already. What an incredible thing you've done in the 6 years that you've been doing this. Give us an update.
We're tired.
To someone who has never been up here, how do you explain what this is?
You show them pictures, you tell them what you're doing, and invariably when they actually come up here, they have a whole different impression of the place, because it kind of speaks for itself when you're in the environment, but it's really hard to visualize, especially for people that are coming from a more urban climate.
Jeff, how would you summarize what your mission is?
I think the main thing is what we're trying to do is create something here that's a test bed that other people can emulate, because we're just two guys, and we do joke about the fact that our goal is 1.3 million trees. If it were just he and I doing it, we'd probably hit the goal, but he would be in a walker and I'd be in Depends, and that would be it. So what we realized is that the key to expanding this thing is to give it away, and we're finding people that are thinking like us, that are willing to work with us on this thing and expand it, hopefully on all islands.
This, my friends, is the Four Seasons Hualalai Khoa Forest.
Do you ever expect this would be what you'd be doing now?
I think that this is something that is bigger than what we planned, and I think it'll be taken by the next generation to bigger than we can imagine.
Yeah.
And our job is just like Daryl said, one foot in front of the other, and when we can't do it, somebody else can pick up the baton and continue on.
In fact, I think that's kind of the place that this has grown to for us, is realizing that the developing of public-private partnerships and corporate relationships allows you to explore reforestation almost anywhere. I mean, we've talked to people in Chesapeake Bay that are talking about doing this with the American chestnut. And there's people talking about doing it with walnut trees and the pecans and things that had been greatly reduced over the years. And some cases it's reclaiming old tobacco land. In our case, it was ranch land that was being underutilized. But there's always places where this can fit.
I just have to take a moment to comment on what's happening now around us. Is another part of the magic of this place. While we've been standing here, just this beautiful fog and warm mist has surrounded us. For a city girl from Oahu, this is a big thrill. And on top of that, when we were out there planting our trees, you coordinated thunder as a drum roll behind us during that process.
Yeah,
that was some tough coordination.
Guy Hoggy was like, it doesn't get any better than this. I'm up here planting Khoa, and there's thunder in the background.
Well, this is a tree that's going to be very majestic. A tree that's going to benefit from the best weather on the planet.
When I was here last, you were trying to hit 100,000 trees. I know throughout all of this process, you have had to contend with critics who either didn't understand what you're doing or said it wasn't possible. How have you handled that?
Well, the word impossible gets used a lot. I think impossible is just a really big word that people use so they can stay in their comfort zone and not challenge themselves to try and find solutions. I think the forest has been explaining most of it away, and we actually have very few critics at this point.
I'm just glad I didn't know it was impossible when we started.
There you go.
I had somebody standing with me right where we were today, and they said, you won't get a tree in the ground until pigs can fly, was their comment. And
can I add something to that?
Sure.
If you go up to see the outhouse, there's a weather vane up there, and it's flying pigs.
We were able to jumpstart this by putting together a tree investment program where people would buy a block of trees for future harvest. And the resource from that sale allowed us to get those trees in the ground, get fencing in, get things started. But the goal was always reforestation, and by getting that initial start, we were also able to plant trees that were for permanent reforestation. And those trees are being sponsored by individuals, one or two at a time, by corporate sponsors that are doing it as part of their sense of responsibility to the environment. And that model has taken on kind of a life of its own. So we're able to expand the diversity of the forest. A lot of those trees are starting to become other endemics like sandalwood and mamani and nayo, so we're able to expand the diversity of the forest.
Jeff, why Khoa?
I kind of feel like I was partly responsible for the degradation of Khoa because I love Khoa furniture. And as I had pieces made, I found more and more that the wood artisans were taking longer and longer, and I just thought they were really busy. But it turned out that it was just more difficult to find the quality of wood that they're looking for. And as I started to look into it, I realized that if we don't fix it, it's going to be something that's unfixable.
Yeah, in fact, they estimate that about 90% of the original Khoa forests on the Big Island are gone.
What do you want to see here in 10 years?
What I'm most interested in seeing is the canopy's starting to close on the first-year trees, and we're starting to bring in more of the other endemic understory species. And what I'm anxious to see is a forest where you wouldn't know that there was a rangeland in place before you started, where the grass is faded back and the understory shrubs and native ferns are really the dominant feature under the canopy of trees.
Plant me a Khoa tree. Don't you cry for me. Plant me a Khoa tree. Don't you cry for me. You touched all the people with your music. It made sense of so much noise.
Mahalo na aina. Mahalo ke akua. Na kupuna, na ohana, na meho aloha.
When you work with Hagedon, the only footprints you leave are in the sand.